In KO Zero Nightmare, a lot of players are struggling to know which partners they should use with each character. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the tier list I did with the best partners for each class. We have 6 classes and they have a tier list with tier S, tier A and B with all the partners you can use on them. So we have controllers, Hunter, Psionic, Ranger, Striker and Vanguard. I'm going to talk about each of them, how they can be used and the best way to use them. So starting with the tier S, Nyx. She's a very strong partner. She will increase HP and healing by 8% of your character, and when assigned combat draws for the first time each turn, 8% damage dealt by allies for 1 turn. So she can increase the damage and also HP and healing for that character, which can improve the lot of the fight. Next we have the tier S, which is Noel, and Noel will increase 50% increased damage, shield gain and healing from the combatant cards, which can be very good, and at the end of the turn deals fixed damage to all enemies equal to 15% of each retained card for the assignment combatant. So will be good that you are aware of the partners to make the best use for these passives. I forgot to talk about Nyx's passive. She discards up to 3 cards and then draw +1 cards equal to the number discarded. So if you discard 3, she will draw 4 basically. Then we have R1, which is a tier A as well. She does the same thing as Nyx regarding the passive. She gives 8% HP and healing, and at the start of the turn she gives Ponopoku's Cheer, and basically what this thing does is reducing the damage upcoming for 10% and can stack up to 3 times. So this one can be a really good one as a defensive partner, reducing the damage and also increasing the HP and healing from that character. Next we have Yvonne. Yvonne is a 3-star one. She will increase the defense of the character by 8%, but the good thing about her is that when the combatant ends, if there is non-attack cards, she will 30% at the start of the next turn. 30% is quite a lot. And finishing on tier B is Alisa. She increased the defense by 12% and at the end of the battle recover 3% of the health, which is not that much. We also have the Ego skills. This one heals 100%, healing amount increased by 50%, while injured state gain 1 morale for 1 turn. So if you're using a controller, Nyx will be a really good one, but all the tier A's, they are equally good, and if used the right way, they will increase the chance of your survivability, healing, and all of that stuff. Next, we have the Hunters. So on the Hunters, we're gonna start with the tier S. So tier S, we have Siratia. The Ego skill will deal 250% damage and apply 2 vulnerable. Keep in mind, some of these partners are very specific for some of the characters, increasing their damage, critical rate, and a lot of other stuff. The Hunters we have is Renoa, Hunter, and Lucas. So these partners will increase their damage and all the abilities of their cards. So Siratia, as I was saying, she increased the critical chance of the combatant attack cards increased by 80%. And some of these combatants, especially Luke, they work quite well with critical rates, and it's like a trigger to increase their damage. And when she unsigned combat attack results in a critical hit, she will increase critical damage and stacks up to 5 times, which can increase a lot your damage. Next we have another tier S, which is Janet. Janet, if you activate the Ego is 3 EP, which is a bit more expensive, deals 150% damage to all enemies, and the passive 9% in critical chance of the assigned combatant's attack card casting 1 or less. So every cards that are 1 or less, you will gain 9% critical chance. And when the assigned combatant uses 5 bullet cards, generate a random handgun bullet card, the generated card deals 50% more damage. So this one is really good for these characters. They work very well with these bullet cards. So having this one, she will just increase the damage of that 6 bullet and also the critical chance of those cheap cards, which can be really good. Next we have Akkad. Akkad is a 4-star partner, but he's really good also with this bullet mechanic. The Ego is 2 AP, and for 1/3 she will increase 25% critical chance for the combatant cards. So if using this guy the right way, he can increase a lot the damage you're gonna generate that round. So the passive, the damage of the combatant bullet card increased by 10%, and when the combatant lands their first critical hit, the bullet card damage increased by 12% for 1 turn. So this one, with all of this bullet stuff, will be really good. Kiara, the ego skill is 3 EP, deals 200% damage and 20% damage by the number of cards in the graveyard. Sometimes we don't have much cards in the graveyard, but if you can generate all of these bullets, get a lot of cards in your graveyard, this can generate a lot of damage. And the passive, and this is why I place her in a tier A, is because of this passive. There are 10 or more cards in the graveyard, the assigned combat attack card damage is increased by 15%. This can be a bit tricky, because not all the time we have 10 or more cards in the graveyard. If you can manage well, generate a lot of bullets, maybe you'll get those 10 cards in the graveyard, but sometimes it's very tricky to wave that, and probably you need to build up your cards and build up your deck to achieve this passive much more often. And then we have the tier B. So we start with Yuri. Yuri is a 3-star partner. Basically, the ego just generates 2 cards, which is not a great passive, since the price of this is 3 EP, so 3 EP for 2 cards doesn't look that great. The passive just increased attack by 8%, and the first shuffle, she will increase 8% of the combated damage dealt. And then we have Karate. Karate, the ego is 2 EP for 1 turn, increase the damage of the card generated by assigned combated abilities by 20%. And the passive at the start of the turn, the damage of 1 card increased by 10% of the combatant, and when the combatant generates a card for the first time, their attack card damage increased by 10% for 1 turn. So these two are not the best ones for this, but Kiara can be really good if you have the right deck, and then all the 3 TRS, they are quite good, especially with this thing with 25 cards, especially a card can be really good with this bullet generation, and if you use the ego with in the right moment, it will make you deal a lot of damage, and for 2 EP it's a quite good one. Then we have the Psionic partners, and we start with Atia. So Atia EP is 2, the ego skill is 2 EP and deals 180% damage to all enemies and apply 1 vulnerable. So AoE damage is very welcome to these characters, because some of them, if not, because I mean we have Trisa, the only Psionic we have is Trisa and Karen. Karen does some area of damage, but Trisa doesn't have much area of damage, so this can quite benefit her area of damage. And for the passive, this will increase HP and damage by 8%. And when the combatant generates a card, 8% attack card damage, increase 8% of the card damage for 1 turn. Then we have Bria. For the ego skill, she has this thing of she will go to the discard pile and exhaust all the status elements and curse cards, and then will give 10% attack card damage for 1 turn, which can be good. Then for the passive, and the passive really shines on this one, when a assigned combatant generates a card, which you can generate a lot, at least with Trisa, she generates a lot of cards. The ult will increase by 10% for 1 turn and can stack up to 3 times. With Trisa, you can generate a lot of daggers, and this will increase at least 30% of the damage, which can be a lot. Besides this, when a side combatant generates a status element card for the first time, 25% attack card damage for 1 turn. Okay, this will be a lot of damage generated. Then we have Eloise, and we don't have any tier beyond these ones. The ego skill is 3 EP, and for 1 turn, when a card is exhausted, apply 1 weaken to a random enemy. Not very impressive. Passive, the combatant card damage is increased by 10%, and when the combatant first exhausts a card for the first gains a status element card, the attack card damage is increased by 12%. For 1 turn. That's basically it. 10% and then 12%. Then we have Zetera. Zetera ego skill generates a shield, which can be useful sometimes, but is not the main goal of these Psionic characters. The passive will grant 8% attack to the combatant, and when injured, recovers 4% health, which can be useful sometimes. So it's not too bad, these ones. Next, we're gonna talk about Ranger. So we start with Tina, the first one. And on Rangers, we have Veronica, Selena, and Ugu. This is the characters we can find as Rangers. And we have a few partners. So we start with Tina. The ego skill for Tina, she draw 1 card, increase the combatant extra attack damage by 30% for 1 turn. And the passive, order attributes extra attack damage is increased by 15%. plus 25 extra attack damage from targeting attack cards. So all of these attack cards will have a lot of extra attack damage with this partner. Solia. The Ego skill deals 250% damage and apply one mark. These marks will increase the damage of these rangers because these marks will trigger some extra damage. The passive 20 plus extra attack damage of the assigned combatant, and when the assigned combatant draws for the first time, 10% attack card damage for one turn. Okay, so more attack damage. Then we have Marin, but basically all of these partners is 5 stars. So the Ego skill is 3 EP and deals 200% damage to all enemies and draw one skill card. So this one, quite nice, deals area of damage and also draws a card. Then for the passive, the extra attack damage of the card generated by assigned combatant increases by 15%, and when the assigned combatant uses a skill card, plus 25% extra damage for one turn. So she can increase a lot the damage of these rangers. Then we have the TRA, and TRA is the 4 stars. The TRA we have Rosaria. The Ego skill is 2 EP, she draws an enhanced card, and the enhanced cards is basically the cards that will kind of give a buff. They can give a buff, increase the power of the next cards, and some sort of those type of mechanics. If there are no enhanced cards in the draw pile, draw one card, okay? So you don't lose anything. Passive, she will increase the attack damage by 10%, and when the assigned combatant uses the upgrade or skill card, 25% chance to gain morale for one turn. Then we have Daisy, another 4 stars. The Ego is 2 EP, she gains 180% shield, gain 1 morale for one turn. The assigned combatant additional attack damage is increased by 10%. And same thing happens, she's quite similar to Rosaria, if not the same way, just the Ego skill is a bit different. And she just increased 20% chance, she gives 20% chance, Rosaria gives 25% chance, so they are really quite similar, but Rosaria provides more with the Ego skill. Then we have Nakia, which is a 3-star partner you can find. The Ego skill is 2 AP, just deals 200% damage and that's it. She will increase 8% of the combatant attack, and when ally is defeated, enemy gain 1 backline support. And basically this one backline support will give 10% damage of 1 attack card. Okay, and upon activation, backline support is reduced by 1 up to 3 stacks. Okay, so it just gives you like an extra card to generate more damage. Then we have the strikers. So the strikers we have 4, mainly Rin, Owen and Haru. And starting with the partners, we have quite a lot on this one. We have quite a lot of partners on the strikers. So we start with Marianne. So Marianne, you can see she's quite similar to Rin. So yeah, you will want to use this with Rin. She deals 350% damage with the Ego skill. And the passive, when the combatant damage to breakthrough enemies is increased by 15%. And also the combatant basic cards always apply weak point damage and 5% weakness damage. This works quite well on these characters and it will increase their damage a lot. Priscilla. Ego skill is 2 AP, deals 250% damage, apply weakness, attack to 1 assigned combatant, random attack card in hand. The passive, the assigned combatant HP and damage is increased by 8% and plus 25% damage dealt by assigned combatant to targets in the break state. These characters are very specialized in breaking the enemy, and this 25% damage can be a lot if you have the right card in your hand. Then you have Scarlet. EP, 3 EP for the Ego skill, deals 250% damage, plus 10% to attack card damage per buff owned. If you get a lot of buffs, this will increase the damage a lot because there's no limit. The passive, if a card used immediately before was from the assigned combatant, you generate 50% attack damage and stacks up to 2 times. And the tricky part is to use the one card after another and not swap between cards of each character to get these 2 stacks of 15%, and this way you get 30% more attack card damage. And when assigned to the combatant, use 2 or more cards, they gain focus. She also gives focus and increases, so this focus, attack card damage of the assigned combatant is increased by 20%, so this focus will increase 20% of the damage. Then we have the TRA, we have Lillian, the Ego skill is 3 EP, does some area of damage, draw 1 attack card, and if the assigned combats with cost of less than or equal So she draws one card that is 1 or less. The passive, the assigned combatant's attack cards with the cost of 1 or less deal 10% damage. And she has quite a lot of cards that are 1 or 0, so this can improve a lot of the damage, but she has some 2 that cost 2 as well. When a side combatant uses a skill card, 10% attack card damage for 1 turn, stacks up to 3 times. So you can really, especially like Manlin and these characters, they have a lot of cards that are 1 AP or 0 AP. This combatant can perform pretty well with these cards. But if you change your cards and you have more cards with 2 AP, then this will be more tricky. Then we have Asteria, and Asteria is a bit similar to Lillian as well, and is the reason why I'm placing her on tier A. For the Ego skill, 20% damage of the next attack card used by the Psionic combatant. For the total cost of all cards in the hand, max 10. So the more cards you have in your hand, more damage this Ego skill will do. The passive, this passive will increase the 25% more damage for the cards that cost 2 or more. So as I said, we don't have much cards on these characters that are 2 or more, at least the default deck. Of course, you can build this in the Chaos mode and get more cards that are 2 or more cost, but as you start, you don't have much, and this passive will not benefit so much as you start playing with this partner. And probably when you build up, maybe for the mid end game, and you have nice decks, this will work much better. And then we have Ritoshka. Now we talk about tier B. So Ritoshka, Ego skill, for 1 turn gains 3 morale, pretty simple. Passive, the Psionic combatant attack card with cost of 2 or more deal 10% damage. At the start of the turn, one of the Psionic combatant attack cards gains 5% damage for every point of the total cost of the card. Pretty simple. But again, it's just with cards that are 2 or more, and this passive will not activate so much often because of this reason. Finally, we have Douglas. Pretty simple, this guy does some area of damage with the Ego skill. The passive gives more 8% attack, and at the start of the battle, increase 8% for 1 turn. Pretty simple. Then we have the Vanguard characters, okay? Vanguard is the last one we have to talk about. So on the Vanguard, let's have a look to the partners. So on the Vanguard, we start with Aisling, okay? Vanguard is Maribel, Magna, Kalip, and Emir. So on this one, we have quite a lot. So we have Aisling. Aisling gives the shields as the Ego skill, but is 4 AP. Very, very expensive, this Ego skill. The passive, increase health and shield gain by 8%. So this one is quite good. And when assigned combatant gains counter-attack 15% defense-based damage. A lot of these characters work with defense-based damage on the cards, and this works pretty well. Like Kalip, she has a lot of cards that are defense-based damage. More defense will increase the damage you do, and this is pretty good. And also counter-attacking, pretty good as well. Then we have Erika. I was not sure about Erika to be a tier S or tier A. I will explain you guys why. She is a tier S. The Ego skill is 2 AP, much better. She deals 200% defense-based damage to all enemies, gain 1 counter-attack, and if any enemies anticipate the action is attack, gain 1 counter-attack, basically. So the Ego gives you counter-attacks, which can be really good on these characters, especially like Kalip that does area of damage. Passive, the Psionic combatant counter-attack damage increases by 15%, so pretty good. When the Psionic combatant uses a skill or upgrade card, there's a 50% chance to gain counter-attack. And this is the reason I'm placing her on tier S. 50% chance to gain counter-attack is pretty big, and if you are always getting this counter-attack, you're gonna do a lot of damage when you receive attacks. Then we have Elmina on the tier A. Elmina, she gains the Ego skill, gives 2 morale, 1 fortitude. The passive gives defense increased by 12%, which can be very useful for all of these characters that work with defense-based damage attack. And when the assigned combatant targets a vulnerable enemy, so when you're doing attacks with these characters, they will apply vulnerable sometimes, and this will increase the damage of those cards. Then we have Rachel, a 4-star card. The Ego skill give you 100% shield and draw a card, so this can be very useful. The passive, the assigned combatant skill card shield gain is increased by 10%, and when the assigned combatant gains shield, 20% chance to gain 1 counter attack. All of these characters have a lot of cards with shields, and this passive can give you a chance to get a counterattack, and this way you're gonna do more damage every time the enemy attacks you. Then Zeta, this is a 5 stars. The ego is not so bad, 2 AP, deals 200% defense-based damage, and draws 1 high-cost card. I mean, some of these characters, they already have a lot of high-cost cards. We don't want all of them on our end, otherwise we don't have much to use. The passive, the defense-based damage of the Psionic combatant in cards is increased by 15%, and 25% defense-based damage and shield gain of the Psionic combatant Celestial cards. Not sure what is the Celestial cards, I guess it's like the special card for each card that the character that uses, it's like an ultimate for them. And lastly, we have Riddle, which is the 3 stars card partner. The ego gives 100% shield, gain 1 counterattack. Passive gives max health increased by 8%. And if the combat is in counterattack state, the defense-based damage is increased by 8%. So, we finished here. There was a lot of partners. I know it's a lot to understand. It's a lot to how to use all of these. But basically, if you have these classes, this is pretty simple. You don't need to, I mean, you need to know all of these, but especially the partner you're using, make sure to use the strongest one, and the partner you're using, make sure that your character benefits from the partner passive. So read it, make sure it uses, for example, for the ranged characters, it works pretty well with the marks. For hunters, the bullets are insane, they can generate a lot of damage, especially single target damage, and these partners can boost their damage a lot. But not all of them have the same passives, they don't do the same thing, so it's important that you keep that in mind and use them on the best way. Alright, so this is just a tier list. Eventually I'm going to do another video just talking about for each character which ones you should use and the ideal ones. But basically, if you follow just the classes and the partners I have here, will be more than enough for you to guide yourself. Besides this, in the same documents, in the same the link I'm going to leave in the description, you can find also the tier list for characters and a team builder, okay? So the team builder is the elements we have and what they are, okay? So basically, I already did a video talking about this, how you should build your team. So I'm going to leave the link in the description as well, if you guys want to have a look, and you can find it in the screen as well, and learn a bit more about the characters and how you should use them. Okay guys, I hope this video was helpful and was not too much because I talked a lot. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Don't forget to leave your like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.